Hey, John here. So we got this Hurricane Z3 leaf blower, and the symptoms are, according to customer, it keeps shutting off. The engine just quits, and then he has to get restarted. Sometimes he has to use the choke, and it's kind of hard to start. Of course, as soon as I got the camera, I can't reproduce that, but it did quit on me once. So I think the fuel thing is actually a fuel pump that is kind of on the fritz. Because it did cut off on me, like I said, and as soon as I looked at the fuel filter, it was empty. So I'm thinking that it's just not, sucking fuel enough. Your engine is producing the air, and because this is the fuel tank's like this whole thing, so it's got a fuel pump. It's not gravity fed. So I guess a way I could test that, if I can get it to do it again, is just mount an external, just temporary gas tank. Like I got a couple plastic gas tanks. We could just run it in gravity fed. If it doesn't do it, it's probably the fuel pump. But that being said, it hasn't done it, and it looks like it's got fuel there. I can't get it to reproduce it, but again, it might be a faulty fuel pump. Don't know yet. So that's how it quits. And other times it didn't last as long, and I don't know if I was traveling, because I was going pretty slow there because I'm operating with one hand, but it just quits. And so as I'm thinking, it's almost like, so this is a fuel pump. This is not a gravity fed system, right? The fuel tank is here, and it actually, I thought about the vent. Is the vent getting clogged and it's not breathing and it's getting vapor locked or something? But it's not. It's a clear hose, and it's properly vented. It's not that. And because it's properly vented, and it's a fuel pump, it needs to suck the fuel in, right? And it uses the engine to do that. The piston going up and down creates the air coming off your manifold. So when it starves for fuel, all that is involved, right? Is it enough compression? The thing runs fine. So I'm leaning that it's not an air issue, a compression issue. For some reason, I think this carburetor is getting starved for fuel. Why? Is the fuel pump not keeping up? That's the question. That's the first thing I want to eliminate. So by hooking an external fuel tank that's gravity fed, where it requires no air pumping, just let gravity go right into this carburetor, and if it quits, then we can eliminate the fuel pump and just go right to the carburetor. And there must be some kind of issue with the carburetor. Maybe it's just so dirty in there that it's getting clogged up and it can't. This is the only thing I can think of, because otherwise this thing runs great. You would have no indication, and all of a sudden, boom, just like that, and it's sporadic. 5 minutes one time, 15 minutes another time, sporadic. So I'm leaning towards fuel now, fuel delivery. Let's eliminate the fuel pump. So we're just doing a pretty crude thing. We just got it kind of sitting up there, strapped to it. We're going to fill this up, and this is the new hose. Put a little shut off there, but find the hose that on your fuel pump. In this case, it's this nipple here, but just locate the one that goes to your intake valley. Is not the one you need. You need the other one, and we'll just go ahead and plug this guy into here, and it'll be a gravity fed system, right? And then make sure everything's not touching hot mufflers, and we'll go from there. And I only filled it up with a half tank of fuel, and then I went in the house. I was helping the wife out. I was in the basement. I literally thought this thing was going to be conked out from lack of fuel, like an empty tank. It was still running, so like 45 minutes later. So that's as long as it's ever run. So I'm 100% sure in my mind that this is fuel related. So we're on the right track. However, can we condemn the fuel pump yet? So there's another test I want to do. That's what that clear tube is. I want to run this, get rid of this. Actually, not get rid of it. Keep this. I'll put some more fuel in this because I know this thing runs now, but we need to keep the engine running to keep that engine air running, because the old fuel system, the fuel pump, is still hooked up off the manifold. That's why I didn't want to disturb anything, and it'll shoot it out that tube. and obviously it's not going to a carburetor, but we've got a temporary situation in place so that the engine will run, it'll pump air. I want to now wait and see if this actual pump starts petering out. I'll put a fuel tank here, right, and we'll set something up where it's going to be pumping fuel, and then based on all the symptoms earlier, it runs no longer than like 10 minutes, and then it quits. So I want to verify this, that the fuel volume in that clear tube will diminish, and that won't say that it's 100% the fuel pump. There's some things involved that I can't just say it's the fuel pump, but the fuel pumps are relatively inexpensive, and I think I'll be okay making a call, because I really don't want to, because I'm into this a little bit now as far as troubleshooting. I don't want to get involved in taking things apart that don't necessarily need to be taken apart. In other words, taking the carburetor off. This is why I'm doing it this way, to eliminate certain things. We eliminated the oil sending unit. We eliminated now the fuel pump. The fuel pump's out of the equation. This thing ran for 45 minutes. It's got no issues. Let's go ahead and see if this fuel line peters out. Again, I'll put some fuel in there. If it does, I'm just going to call the fuel pump. So, I do not know, clearly in my vision, the amount of flow reduced. So I'm going to just lean towards the fuel pump at this point. However, I am not 100% sure if, what's causing this. In other words, hold on a second. Yeah, so we got the new fuel pump in. So I guess we'll get to cross our fingers here. Cross our fingers, hopefully made the right call. So we got in and out, and of course we got the should be the exact same one. For some reason it ain't fit. So we'll hook the vacuum line up. Yeah, get the bottom one started. Let's go ahead and take off our external fuel. Put around the new fuel pump. There it goes. There. Alright, so there's no fuel yet. Let's give her a couple of cranks, see what's doing. Let's get our external off of here. Strap, choker, start. So we made it about 15 minutes and it quit. So that was wasted time and money on a fuel pump. It's only 14 bucks, but I kind of took the easy way, thinking, hoping, crossing my fingers. Okay, so at this point in time, I thought, what else could this be? When this fuel pump quit, again, 15 minutes, brand new fuel pump, it quit. So at that point, I went ahead and checked the compression, went all through the fuel, air, spark things, racking my brain, and I ended up ultimately finding it. It wasn't until the next day, but because I went and took the carburetor housing off the plate on the top, I didn't take the carburetor out, but I cleaned everything up with carb cleaner, and then when I was putting things back together, I have some footage here. I'll show you that. It's probably easier to show you. That is just unbelievable. So this thing is now licked. I've been blowing leaves for about an hour and a half now, and everything's fine. So the whole problem with this machine was, here's what happened. So I was at my wit's end. I could not figure this out. I mean, I checked the compression. We went through the the breather. I'm like, why is this fuel pump keep quitting? And as you saw, we added an external fuel tank and it ran fine. Do you know what it ended up being? And I still can't believe this snorkel here. See how it's facing this way? So when this machine came to me, that snorkel, you can rotate this. It was underneath there. So I think after a bit, it gets starved for air, and that was totally the issue. So you could put the snorkel here. You can actually put it, here. I tried it over here. I tried it in 3 different places except for that, and it's fine. And I guarantee if I go ahead and rotate this back to where it was, this thing will run 15-20 minutes and conk out because, back there it's just starving for air. I cannot believe that's the case. Okay, so that ultimately fixed this machine. The fuel pump replacement was just, I diagnosed it as a fuel pump. The trickle of the fuel when we did the gravity feed, everything worked when we, had an external tank. And I was messing around with running it, and I watched the fuel flow diminish. So that's what I went, I just went with the facts. Put the fuel pump on there, didn't do the trick. Rotating this, not that I ever would have, found that to begin with, but rotating, because when you put your hand over that snorkel, the engine will quit, starve it for air or a dirty air filter along those lines. So again, this thing, the filter was fine, everything was fine. Just rotating this fixed it, which is kind of unbelievable, but that's what it ended up ultimately fixing this. So anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. See you next time.